Well, the players put in another shocker of a first half, and in the end, North made them pay. You can't keep playing like that and expect to win. It just doesn't happen. Don't blame the umpires. Don't even blame the touch goal. The Swans simply weren't good enough for long enough.
Stats only tell part of the story. We got up, we slowed them down on the uncontested marks, obviously after quarter time, but we let them go too many times length of ground. Where they were able to score.
This is the Swans Blog's SwansCast, the #1 Sydney Swans fans podcast. In this week's episode, we'll be dissecting the Swans' disappointing 2-point loss to the Kangaroos on Saturday night at the SCG. We'll give you our Monday champions and villains, discuss Rohan's 100th game, give a quick wrap of the Swans NEAFL result, and have Stephen answer questions in our 3-minute scramble. I'm Justin Mitchell, and with me is SwansCast regular Stephen Treloar. Not quite the result we were after, was it?
No, definitely not. I think I could hear a little bit of squawking in the background from where you are, mate, but tell you what, that's probably what I was shouting at the TV while I was watching the game.
Well, for the listeners at home, I'm actually recording this out in nature, and this will be our first unedited version of the SwansCast. Unfortunately, I have some plans tonight, so we're going to go through this episode real quick. So moving on into our very first item is our top of the agenda now. It's Swans aren't having a good time at home, and look, Swans' misery at home it's not good. Now, our one win from our first 4 games equals 2011, 2006, and 2000. Okay, so 2017 was 1 win from our first 5 games, and 1994 was 1 win from our first 9. You essentially have to go back to 92 and 93 for, I think 92 and 93 we had only 1 win at the SCG for the whole season. And I think that was the season we won 1 game for that season.
Yeah,
so,
to put it in context, I wasn't even born then, so...
oh, yeah, we're talking like really bad records from way back when. Yeah. It's, a couple of really bad performances as well. There's been some really bad halves of football that we played against Adelaide, that we played against Port Adelaide, and that we played against North Melbourne. We should have beaten Port Adelaide. We only kicked 14 points ahead at the end of the first half, despite the dominance that we had. Do you think there is an issue with our play at home at the moment, Stephen?
Yeah, look, I mean, the way the game... it's easy to talk about the way the game is being played at the moment, but there's no denying that the SCG is a small ground. And, I mean, I look back at towards our glory days, think, say, 2005, even up as far as 2016, 2017, and the way we play, other teams just simply do it better. You think of your 2005 Premiership team, and it was a team where everyone did their roles super well.
Yeah.
Well, not even super well, but, well enough, and it was all a team-focused performance.
Yeah.
And they just got basic skills right, and that's the thing that's baffling me at the moment. I mean, sure, we're... got a few injury problems, but it's really disappointing to see, and it has made me start to wonder. I'm not fully there yet, but are we kind of falling over a precipice here? Is our premiership window closing?
It's a good question.
Well, we're still 8th.
Yeah.
We're still in the top 8 even after all this, so there's still hope yet, I reckon.
Look, it's not a bad question to ask, to be honest, because our percentage is just hovering above 100. We haven't really smashed any team. Apart from the 7-goal effort against Geelong, we really haven't dominated any team. We really got an early run on West Coast, and then we just held that margin for the entire game. It's I wrote today about what's kind of happening at the moment with the team, and I've kind of suggested that we might actually be in a transition year from a player perspective, but also from a game style or a game plan perspective. There has certainly been a clear shift away from what Sydney has been successful at over the years. That is contested ball, centre clearances or clearances in general, and really tight one-on-one full ground defence. They're playing zonal defence, and it's actually helped their defence, gel and also restrict teams. They're playing more players behind the ball to try and get teams on the counter. And they're introducing much faster players. So you look at Florent and Hayward have played, I think, every game. Florent maybe not one, maybe the first one he missed or something. But I think he's played all, but they've played every game. Jones, after he came back from injury, Lloyd isn't particularly quick. But they're 3 players. Then you look at Ling and Stoddard. Ling was one of the emergencies, and he didn't even play in the NEAFL, so he was a lot closer than we thought he was on Thursday. Stoddard's been killing it in the NEAFL. He's going to come in very soon. Mills is okay. Heaney's pretty quick around the ground, so there's a lot of speed in the side. Do you think that's going to be the Swans' push in the next couple of years to get more speed in the side?
Well, I think part of that's been due to necessity. I mean, we haven't had any tall forwards for the past couple of weeks now, and I don't consider Towers. I can't simply call him a tall forward. I don't think he did that role justice last week. But I think we've had to do that out of necessity, and it's good that we've seen some players who can do that role pretty well. I mean, Ronke and Fox, and those guys you've mentioned do provide a bit of that, flair and speed and stuff, which I believe a couple of years ago we were saying that we was actually quite lacking. So it's good to see that come in. But I think we'll go back to a bit more of a balanced, measured sort of brand of football, where you get guys like Buddy Franklin coming back in, maybe a Melican type in defence, or even if Lee gets the game again. But it's just not working. It's not working.
No, it's not. And I guess we'll move on to the match review in a minute. But one of the things that has come across quite strongly from the supporter base, and it's not even the plan B or C or D or Z, any of that anymore. I think that was pretty much knocked on the head when the Swans beat Geelong. It's the umpiring. A lot of people are very critical of the umpiring, but I think people have to realise that our injury list isn't quite the longest in the AFL, but our key players out is one of the longest in the AFL. You look at it, our first two choice ruckmen are out. So you've got Naismith and Tippett, they're out for the season. We've got our two tall forwards out, and we got Franklin, so that's Franklin Reid, Melican, which is essentially our second or third defender. Aaliyah only just returned from injury. So Hanbury as well, he's an elite All-Australian midfielder. We've got so many key, they're basically four or five of those are our best 6 players or best 7 players in the team, without a doubt. I think we've done okay. We should have done better against North Melbourne. There's no question about that. But I think we've done okay.
Yeah, it's been a pretty tough first few weeks from a fixture perspective. But I think hopefully, I don't want to talk too much about what Hawthorn might do this week. But
Yeah, look, just to wrap this up, I did a fixture analysis in the off-season, and I rated the Swans' first 6 games as the hardest by quite some margin. Richmond, who are at the top, and Eagles, who are also second, I believe, they came in as first or second and third as far as easiest fixtures go. North Melbourne also had a really easy fixture. The thing that really disappointed me about the performance on the weekend was that Sydney's next 6 games, including the North Melbourne game, are actually the easiest in the AFL by some margin compared to where teams finished up last year. We've got North, Hawthorn, Suns, St Kilda, Carlton, and I can't remember who the other team was, but really, not difficult.
Yeah, well, last day we have to come away with 3 wins. I'm not expecting too much from the Hawthorn game, but Saints, Suns, and who was the other one? But, we should.
St Kilda, Suns, Blues, and I'm not quite sure who the other one is. I think maybe Brisbane.
Well, yeah.
Brisbane, I think.
Fremantle.
Fremantle. That's it. Fremantle. Who are actually pretty good.
Bottom 4, bottom 6 sides. So if we don't come away with a decent run of wins and a bit of form going, then we'll be really worried. Then I reckon. Yeah,
we should be winning most of these matches. But, Jekyll and Hyde at the moment, it's quite bizarre. But look, that leads us into my Monday's moment of madness. Now, the AFL really shot themselves in the foot with this one as far as I'm concerned. And I'm just going to preface this with the goal review system. It ended up being the difference in the game. You basically posted it on Facebook during the game that if we lose by less than a goal, look out. Now, the feedback that came out on Sunday was that there was not enough definitive evidence to overturn the decision, which, if you're watching on TV or at the game, they showed on all the TVs at the game. They also showed the TVs in the lounge rooms and all the pubs and homes everywhere across Australia, and especially on the big screens at the ground, there was a clear touch on the ball. And then you go to Sunday, and there was 2 really line ball touches, which the umpires just instantly overturned. Even in one case, the central umpire had just to restart a play without waiting for the review to start or to complete, and he just restarted. And when they said there's a review in progress, he had to call the ball back. it's just, this system is broken to the core. It should just be thrown out. Either pay all the line ones or just don't even bloody bother with it. I think Steve Hocking has kind of created this messy situation with his public criticism where he's come out and said they're overstepping, they're taking too long, let's get them faster. And of course, something like this was always bound to happen where there was a clear instance or just a marginal instance where a game is essentially decided on a touch ball. So, look, the AFL, in my opinion, they've made their bed, they've shit in it, they've rolled around in it, they've really enjoyed it, now they've got to live with it. So, I hate to do a disgusting pun, but I mean, that's kind of what the situation is. Everyone's complained about the goal review system since it came in, and it was a constant villain last year. It was probably the most villainous topic last year. Stephen?
Yeah, look, I mean, in a week where, video reviewing Ben slags heaps in another code, I'm not sure if you saw the A-League Grand Final, but...
No, but I heard something controversial happened.
Yeah, they... kicked the only goal from offside, and the video review wasn't working, so they couldn't do anything about it.
No.
Yeah, terrible. But, I mean, I think it was Titus O'Reilly who said in one of his articles today or yesterday that he put it that they brought in this video review system to fix mistakes, and now they're only making more. It's it's just...
Yeah.
They need to either update the technology they're using, get better cameras in there so you can actually see. I think if you are going to put in a video review system, you can't have one in maybe 1,000 should result in all results. They should be giving definitive results. And until look, to be honest, I don't think anything too much will happen
no.
from the cause of this game. But if something can happen in the grand final, look out.
Oh, I guarantee you something like this is going to happen in a grand final. If there's anything marginal in a grand final, they'll overturn it. But look, we could talk about this until we're blue in the face, and I believe it is actually our Monday villains, both of us. So I think we should just put this topic to bed because this is a full episode topic. So instead of talking about villains and the goal review system, let's chat about our Monday champions now. Stephen, who is your Monday champion?
My champion goes to one of our bright lights in a bit of a dim time at the moment, Willie Hayward, one of our few forwards who actually, stood up and showed a bit of ticker.
Yeah.
Kicked enough goals for us to, certainly hold his spot. I know in previous weeks a few were saying, should he go back to the reserves for a bit? But I think after the first game...
He kicked 3 goals too, but he did have that...
So he could have been more.
Yeah, he had that shocking snap when he was about 25 metres out, the check side.
Yeah, as I said, it's kind of it's not as much of a hero champion as it would normally be, but from the Swans there weren't too many bright lights.
No, and in the end I gave him I believe 3 votes. So Kennedy was the leading disposal winner for Swans. He finished with 31 and I think 100 fantasy points.
But that was interesting with Ben Jacobs, wasn't it?
Yeah, Ben Jacobs really dominated in the first half. He had just a couple short of what Callum Sinclair had in the first half, which actually leads me into my Monday champion. I've gone for the one and only Callum Sinclair. He's becoming my guilty pleasure, I must say. I think I've championed him about 3 or 4 times already this season. I can't stop doing it. He was superb in that first half. He absolutely dominated. There was potentially a little question mark over how he would go this time compared to last season when Goldstein got on top and was one of the better Roos players. But his first half was outstanding. He was fantastic. In my opinion, he was the only reason why Sydney were even close in the first half. Without him, we would have been blown away.
Yeah. Now, and even in the latter parts of the game at Goldstein, his ruck work outshone Sinclair, to be honest. I think the stuff he did around the ground really made him a threat.
It did, and he kicked a goal, really nice goal. He got a lot of marks, got a lot of disposals. He finished with 22 disposals, which is absolutely ridiculous. He just looked absolutely taxed at the end of the game, totally tired, worn out beyond belief. But look, as far as he's going, he's pretty much in the elite category as ruckmen go. who would have thought, like 12 months ago, even 18 months ago, that we'd be saying about this Callum Sinclair? He's an elite ruckman.
Mm.
He's playing exactly like Cox used to play for the Eagles. He doesn't get the taps, he doesn't dominate the hit-outs, but he does so much around the ground like Cox used to do. And a player like that is invaluable. You pay him premium to get him. He's basically Swans Max Gorn, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's probably not quite in that range yet, but I'm wondering whether it probably does say more about Sinclair, but I'm wondering if it says more about the state of our midfield that
yeah, that's a good point.
Sinclair has to do all this stuff around the ball where, it should be guys like Parker and Hatterbury and Hewitt getting in there and helping Kennedy get that ball, because watching, he's doing a decent job for a ruckman. He's got decent agility and he's not too bad below the feet, but seeing a ruckman doing the stuff he does, he just kind of
it's really great.
A little bit as well, don't you?
Yeah, it's really great, especially from a Swans ruckman. The only player I can think of who might have been like that was Everett. Even Jolly wasn't doing the sort of things he does. So maybe Everett. Ball, Jason Ball, even before then, I can't really think of anyone else. So it's really good to have basically a 200-centimetre midfielder who can kick a lot of goals.
Yeah.
He's my Monday champion. We usually do our Monday villains, but both of ours are the goal review system, and we both think it's total shit. So I think we should just move on from there.
Yep.
And we've got a question for our listeners this week. We had a lot of responses. One, the question this week was, how do we turn around our home ground form? Now, obviously, it's a bit the pits at the moment. There's a big hole, and the Swans' home ground form is directly in the middle of it, down the bottom. Now, Kirby from Twitter said, unbiased umpires would help, and accurate goal reviews. Probably can't disagree with that one there, I would think, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, I find it difficult to blame the umpires too much. I mean, I think the players deserve more blame than the umpires, to be honest.
Well,
stuff. But
yeah.
I mean, look, if I had to give an answer to that, it would be, how do we solve our home ground problems?
Yep.
We abandon Sydney. We come back to South Melbourne. We haven't home games already had. And we have an undefeated invincible season.
Yeah.
Win 5 flags in a row, and all will be well.
No, I did see that comment actually come up on Facebook. Someone did say, move back to Melbourne. And, look, it's so funny. We've lost 2 games.
Maybe, I mean...
Well, we've won, I think, 14 from 16 at Etihad since 2012, that awful game against St Kilda. And our record at every other ground recently, since about 2012, is about 80 or 90% win rate compared to the SCG, which is about 50 or 60%, which is quite poor, actually.
And if at the moment,
look, if I had one way to turn around the home ground form, it would be get some bloody tall players back. Let's get into our weekend review. So I'm just going to fire off a couple of points, and then we'll have a bit of a chat. So the fear that I had, and I'm not quite sure how many other people had it before the match, was that North Melbourne were very tall and they were going to exploit that. In the end, they did. Ben Brown took 4 marks in defence. He basically looked like he was leading out of the goal square half the time. The matchup on Mason Wood was a bizarre one. Rampy took Ben Brown, and he did a pretty good job, but he gave away a couple of cheap free kicks in the first quarter. Couple of really bad turnovers gave the Roos goals in the second and third quarter, especially that Sinclair kick across goal. I also blame Jones for that because he called it when he shouldn't have. He is probably the worst that after quarter time, this is how bad we were in front of goal. After quarter time, the Swans kicked 1 goal 10 from 15 to 40 metres out. And these are some shots directly in front.
That's ridiculous, yeah.
We had after Mason Wood kicked his 4th goal, we had 2 more shots on goal. So Papley kicked a long-range point, and then I believe it was it Towers? Maybe had a snap out of a pack or something like that, and it sprayed wide.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was Kieran Jack or something. Kieran Jack kicked 3 behinds for the match. He didn't have a good one.
Yeah, and poor disposal efficiency as well. He had a real shocker.
Yeah, he did.
Given his, I thought he was so good against Geelong. The way he works with Kennedy in our last quarter was so good in the midfield, playing a bit more of that midfield role.
Yep.
It was just so disappointing to see that drop.
Yeah, it really was. I took the stat at three-quarter time because I was just so frustrated. And I don't know if you believe this, but he had 15 disposals to three-quarter time. 5 of those were turnovers, and he was going at just over 40%. So that means he hit 4 targets from 10 if you take the 5 turnovers away. That's how bad he was going. Now, this is where it gets really, really frustrating, right? The start of the fourth quarter when we kicked the 2 goals won, he was involved in every single scoring shot. He hit 4 out of 4. He had 10 disposals in the last quarter at 50%, which means he hit 1 from the next 6. Look, he's been a bit criticised this year. He was criticised last year, I think, unfairly because of his injury, but this year it's more about form and execution, and he's been so far off, it's unbelievable.
And you wonder how, how Horse and the coaching staff are going to handle, because, I mean, you'd think that this would be his last year. If he had another year extension on his contract, I'd be... well,
apparently
I'm getting started at the moment, just thinking about it.
I know, but I was thinking about that today as well. Apparently he's contracted into 2019. Now, whether or not he'll play 2019 in the AFL, that's up for debate. I don't think he will. I think he'll play most of it in the NEAFL like Ted Richards did in his last year in O'Keefe. I think the Swans are going to have to be forced to put him out to pasture. I don't think they're going to have a choice, especially when you've got players like Stoddard, Ling coming through. Robinson, obviously, he's probably going to get traded out. But there's a number of players in the reserves, even Newman, if they want to keep Newman, they're going to have to find him in a spot in the team. And there's kids coming up through the academy as well who are showing quite a bit.
Yeah, there are a few.
What is it, James Bell?
Bell's one who we drafted at the end of last year.
But he was an academy prospect, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's an academy boy. Jake Brown's another one.
And he looked pretty good in the NEAFL as well. Yeah.
But yeah, look, I mean, the injury is affecting us in the reserves as well, so can't do too much there.
No, and we'll chat about the NEAFL in a minute, but look, Parker, despite his 7 clearances, he was down. At halftime, people were basically putting out the search party for him. He only had 10 disposals and really didn't even look a threat at all up the forward line.
He's been traded out of my NFL fantasy team. That's how bad he's going.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all because his last month has been, apart from one game, has been really poor, which is in stark contrast to Kennedy, who's actually lifted the last couple of weeks, but he had 2 really down weeks. And it just makes you wonder if it's in coincidence with Hanbury being out, Franklin being out and all that too much is being pushed on him. But Cunningham was particularly poor. His stats were shocking. I couldn't even believe him when I looked at it. I think he hit maybe 1 or 2 targets from his 9 possessions. His turnover rate and clanger rate was unfathomably high. It was unbelievable. I'll tell you what, I'm actually going to look up the player ratings right now because I want to make sure that I get this right because I did record them in the player ratings. Let me just get them here. Yeah. And the saying goes...
I just want to point out, you talked before about the Rampy Ben Brown matchup.
Yep.
And Ben Brown is, after seeing him play against us, the way he marks the ball, his technique about that is absolutely superb. He's the opposite of Buddy Franklin in that his overhead marking is absolutely second to none.
Yep.
The way he jumps and takes the ball at his highest point, you can't have someone playing Rampy's height playing on him.
No, exactly. Look, Cunningham was 9 disposals at 50% and 4 turnovers. And even then...
That is droppable. Put him back. Yeah.
Now, he's not the only one. Gary Rohan had a pretty bad night. Obviously, we didn't stick the fork in too much. Dean Towers was quite poor with the ball as well. He had 10 disposals and 4 tackles, but he had 5 score involvements. So the really bizarre thing is he hit, I think, 5 targets, and he went at 50%, and all of those were score involvements. It's quite amazing, really. But, I gave Rampy a 4 out of 10. I thought he was game in general was quite poor. But yeah, look, mate, I'd love to hear your couple of points from you, a couple of thoughts, and then we'll move on to the NEAFL.
Yeah,
Less said about this game, the better.
Yeah, I'll keep this pretty short because it was such a kind of negative night all around, to be honest. I thought Heath Grundy was all right.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe it was 22 disposals, over 400 metres gained. He was getting the ball pretty well and shooting it back out. But, I mean, I just don't want to talk about North Melbourne's forwards. The thing is, at the start of the year, North Melbourne, one of my least favourite teams, all right? There was 1996.
Yep.
We've had a few kind of biffs, in the past few years, but the way the list management has been in the past kind of 5 years or so, I was of the firm impression that was just shocking.
Yeah.
Now they're proving me wrong, and that makes me dislike them even more. So,
yeah.
Can we please move on?
Yeah, let's move on. I've had enough of that one, to be honest. Yep. But I just want to put kudos out to Sinclair, who had 78 AFL fantasy points at halftime. He was 21 points ahead of the next one, which was Josh Kennedy at 57. So big rep to him for that. Now, let's do a quick NEAFL roundup. For those of you who don't know, or potentially living under a rock, the Swans NEAFL side lost by 1 point in a heartbreaking fashion. It is not the first time they've lost by less than a goal, and they've probably had to blame their very, very poor use inside 50 or goal shooting in particular. So I'll get your thoughts on this in a sec, Steve. But a couple of quick points was that they kicked 4 goals 8 or something, or 2 goals 8 or something like that in the last quarter. And not only that, they actually kicked 2 on the full as well. Cameron was really good in the ruck. And Aaliyah was pretty good, but Amadi had a perfect chance to at least put them further ahead, and he shanked it twice. I think he kicked 3 behinds and 1 on the full in the last quarter. And a new boy, Alum, who debuted, he's a massive unit. He's only 16 years old. He pushed one wide, and then Robinson had a snap, and he missed as well. So, Stephen, some thoughts?
Yeah, well, look, goal kicking again is a problem. I'm going to stick to the guys who impressed me. Hamish Ellum, the academy boy, he's big ruck forward type, and he had, on his first reserves game, he had two goals and 13 touches.
He was great.
And another academy boy, Nick Ano, kicked the opening goal off a left foot snap, which was really good to see. So it was the young stars who were kind of doing a bit to give us a bit of hope in the future. Yep. But our more experienced guys did pretty well as well. So Dan Robinson, who, let's face it, doesn't quite have as much pressure in reserves environment as he does when he plays seniors. He had 34 touches and 2 goals.
Yep.
Newman 33 touches. He should come back into the side, I reckon. If he doesn't, there's something going wrong in someone's head.
Can say the same about Aaliyah, really.
Yeah, and Colin O'Riordan had 25 touches as well, and he should be...
Oh, it was Rawdon who had the snap at the end, yeah.
Yeah, well, that too. But, he should be close to getting a call back. Yep. I mean, 1 point loss, and the Swans reserves haven't had a win yet after 4 games, which wasn't too good.
It's actually their first winless start to a season as well after that period of time.
Really?
Yeah, so they haven't been this bad at the start of the season before. But just on that, they played 7 academy players. So that's players between 16 and 18 in the side, which I think is fantastic to be just 1 point down. And they were 9 points up with about 3.5, 4 minutes to go until Aspley kicked 2 goals in about 2 minutes. 2
quick goals, yeah. We had all the scoring points, but just nothing happened.
Yeah, and amazingly, they didn't kick a behind for more than 2 quarters. Which is, I've never seen that stat before in my life. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Now,
while we're on reserves and the younger guys, the Swans Academy in the under-18 Academy Series had their first loss against a strong Tasmania side. Nick Blakey took quite a good specky as a bit of a highlight there. John Stern, who's an overage player, was doing quite well, in the bottom of the packs as an inside midfielder.
Yep.
So there's... and there were quite a few in the Swans reserve side as well. So it's been there's a few little shining lights there, giving us a bit of hope, but just need the seniors to kind of lift a bit, don't we?
Yeah. At the moment, it's really the academy side that's only performing, which is a bit disappointing. But look, it's time for the 3-minute scramble, Stephen. So in this segment, we've got 3 minutes to fire off as many questions. Now, I think a lot of people already vented before this, so there aren't really that many questions, so I might add one or two. But let's start from now. So Amy from Facebook, she asks, should Gary Rohan stay forward while both Reid and Buddy are out for the height?
Yes, I think forward's his best position, even with Buddy and Reid in there. I think he's kind of higher forward, moving from a wing, attacking forward. I'm not too impressed. I haven't been too impressed in the past when he's been in defence, so yeah, I'll stick him forward.
Yep. Do you think he's capable of playing that Reid sort of spare in defence, or do you think it's just wasted on his kind of talent and his ability?
He can do it. He doesn't always do it, and I think more often than not is more of a liability. He uses his pace all right, but his reading of the ball hasn't really stood out to me when I have seen him play in defence.
Yep.
So it's something that we can do, but I think we should have some other options first before sending Rohan back there.
Do you think a time in the midfield or a bit of a stint on a wing might help him develop that or improve that sort of skill?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it for him is in his head. I think he's a player who the mental side of the game can affect him quite a bit. And let's not forget, he's had a rough time of it off the field as well. So it's not too surprising if he might be shaken at all on the field. But I think giving him confidence by putting him near the ball, particularly at the start of games, perhaps, might be a good move for him. Just if he's confident, if he's loving his footy from the get-go, I reckon that might be the best way to manage him. But
he's a bit like what Travis Cloke used to be, or even Levi Casbolt before he got rid of some of those goal-kicking yips. You basically had to put Casbolt on the ball or in the ruck for him to get any confidence whatsoever in the game and to have any impact.
Yep.
Now, Kirby from Twitter, she asks, is Tony Lockett on holidays? Because they all need goal-kicking practice. And look, as far as I'm concerned, I completely agree with her. Their goal-kicking has been absolutely atrocious in that game.
Yeah, that game, and it goes all the way from the seniors to our reserves. Well, it certainly did last week.
I kicked 9-17, I think it was.
Yeah, and it was 2 goals, 8 in that last quarter for the reserves.
Yep.
Look, I'll start asking where Tony Lockett is if it happens again against the Hawks. I'm just kind of hoping and praying this has just been a one-off thing that had a bit of the yips for pretty much everyone involved, and we'll move on and get back to our best next week. Yep,
pretty much. All right, mate, that wraps up the 3-minute scramble. Right on time, beautifully done.
Absolutely.
Now, normally at this time we would go good call, bad call. I can't really remember the calls, and I don't have that information with me here, but I do remember Stephen putting one absolutely unfathomably ridiculous prediction in which we all laughed at, and I said we're going to laugh at him on this podcast, which is definitely going to happen. He predicted that Carlton could win.
We remembered that one, didn't we?
Oh, yeah, I remember that one because that one was atrocious. That was never going to happen. Now, to his credit, they got within about 3 goals at one point, and they given a fair shake, but then Adelaide just went, nope, and see you later.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could do that to teams, wouldn't
it? Yeah, it would. Let's not talk about the Swans anymore on this cast, all right? All right, mate. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on again. Thank you so much for joining me on the SwansCast.
Yeah, cheers, Justin.
Now, guys, as always, at the end of the episode, we give you a social media rundown. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can get us with the tag The Swans Blog and also with the hashtags SwansCast. Now, we'll be back on Thursday night when the teams are released. I will be joined with Thursday, 10th of May, I'll be joined by Stephen Park. So we're going to run down the preview of the game against Hawthorn, and let's pray for rain or pray for a win. Doesn't matter because we're going to need it. Thank you, guys, and go Swans.
Go Swans.